Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. If you've been watching my previous videos, you know that I have been in a very reflective mode. I've really been paying attention to things that have happened this past year, things I've learned, things that I could have done better, and things that actually went well. So I, did some really deep thinking and I wrote about 6 things that I really learned this year as a 24-year-old. And I emphasize that because we assume that young people should just live their lives freely and that, they shouldn't worry about anything until they're in their 30s. And I have the opposite approach. I believe that in your early 20s is a time when you should be really focused on your growth, really focused on things that you have been programmed to think since you were born, and figure out how to change those perspectives and to really become that person that you want to be, the person that God wants you to be. And so I'm not a type of person who kind of let life just kind of throw me, whichever way. I'm very intentional with my life. I believe that we're all here for a reason and that we shouldn't waste our time here. I think there could be some sort of balance in that, but I'm not one of those you only live once people, which means that I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm one of those people where you only live once, so why not make the best of it when it comes to self-development, your growth, your goals, and just fulfilling that purpose that God has put in your life. So these are 6 things that were very hard for me to accept and learn this year, and these are some of the biggest things that I've been focused on for the entire year. If you're new to my channel, my name is Amari Kalia. Don't forget to like this video, please comment on it, and subscribe if you're new. So the first thing that I have really, and these are not in any particular order when it comes to the most important thing and being the least important thing. But the first thing that I want to talk about is that I learned that deflection is a toxic trait. And a lot of these things I'm going to talk about have to do with traits that are trauma responses, toxic, and just not healthy. So I learned that I am someone who likes to deflect, and I learned that through my relationship. And I've been with the same person for over 7 years. And like I said, I'm 24 years old. So we've been together through some of the harder times in life, turning 18, leaving the house for the first time, being in college, things like that, learning a lot of adult things at an early age. We've been together throughout those times. We're the same age. And one thing that I realized this year is that whenever he would call me out on things, I would deflect and say oh, but what about what you do? Or you do this or you do that, instead of owning what I do. I have a hard time owning my truths and owning the things that I do wrong and taking accountability. So, it took him really telling me why do you always point out what I do whenever I address things that you do wrong? And it took a lot of stubborn, I was very stubborn about it and I didn't really want to accept it. And there were times where he said these things to me and I would still behave in this way. And when I'm in that moment, I'm in my head I know I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's going to make me feel good and it's going to take the microscope off of me and put it onto him. So one thing I learned this past year is that whenever someone addresses you and it's somebody that you trust, somebody that's being genuine, someone that you know is being real and they're coming from a good place, whenever that person tells you something about yourself, accept it and figure out how it really does apply to you and figure out how you can work on that, and don't put the attention on that person. Don't even deflect and think about what that person does wrong. Just take in what that person said and really look in the mirror and address the issue. It's kind of like that thing with gossiping. 9 times out of 10, if you gossip, it's because you want to not think about your own life and what you're doing wrong. It makes you feel good to talk about somebody else. So deflection is kind of the same thing. Whenever someone addresses an issue they have with you, instead of you taking accountability, you turn the microscope on that person and focus on what they do wrong so that you can feel better about yourself and you don't have to, really feel those feelings of what, I'm wrong, and you don't get to take accountability. So that's something that is really important in relationships, and it's something that is very powerful and it helps with communication. So that's something that I've been working on, and I can already see a difference in our relationship because, whenever he does say things to me, in my head, I'm thinking to myself I want to say this thing. I want to like point out what he does wrong, but I don't. I just sit there and I listen and I respond in a better way, or I may just, be quiet instead of saying what my mind is wanting me to say. And although I'm not all the way healed, I'm not all the way at the point where I don't do that at all. It's just great that now I'm aware and I'm actively making sure that I'm not doing it. And still trying to learn healthier ways of communication whenever someone does call me out. And it doesn't just have to be relationship wise. This could be at work. This could be with your friends. This could be in whatever scenario. Whenever someone, like I said, that's being real, genuine, and you trust them, not somebody who just, they're a mean, negative person and they don't really know you like that and they're trying to, make assumptions about you. You don't want to really listen to that because you don't know the place they're coming from. But if it's somebody like your parents, somebody that care about you, and they have your best interests at heart, just listen to it and take accountability for your actions, and don't deflect and put the attention back onto that other person. So another thing, the number 2, I learned that privacy is power. And I know we say that, but we don't really like take it in as much as we should, especially with like all this new technology. There's so many ways to have access to people, so many ways to keep track of what someone else has going on, and we have completely taken the privacy things out of the window. I learned this year because I used to have my location on for a lot of my close family members, my friends, all the things. But it started to become an invasion of privacy because people were like starting to keep track of where I am, and vice versa. I would do the same thing with other people. But for me, it was really bothering me because people would like see that I'm at home and they would call me because they think like, oh, she's not at work, so let me just call her and see what she's doing. And then so I noticed it in that aspect. And then on the flip side of that, I learned that I hate being questioned. Like, I do not like when people ask me a million questions about my personal life. I feel like what's personal to me is personal to me. I shouldn't have to share that with everybody, especially like relationship wise. I feel like that just makes relationships worse when people like, know too much about what you have going on. I've literally been preaching to people in my life like, listen, keep your relationship stuff private. Maybe find one, maybe two people that you trust wholeheartedly and tell them and ask them for advice. But don't go to like 10 different people telling them what's going on in your relationship. Now you're getting opinions from all these different people. Now all these different people know what's going on in your relationship. It's okay to be real. It's okay to be vulnerable, but not to too many people because they will use it against you, keep it in their back pocket, and use it for, their best convenience. And so I learned to keep my mouth shut. Like, even if I'm excited about like my goals and things that I have going on, don't be so quick to go and tell other people. Talk about it with God, write about it, journal about it. Find one or two people who you trust, who you know is not going to use it against you, who you know is not going to tell everybody, and voice it with them. But don't just go around telling people all your personal business. It's just not healthy. It's just not good. And you know how all the girls talk about being mysterious and the dark feminine energy thing. I'm not really into all of that, but I think there is some goodness that comes out of being mysterious and people not knowing what you have going on. They don't get to tell you what your schedule is like, what your plans are. They don't have an idea of, what's in motion. And what's the little saying that people use? Oh, move in silence. Moving in silence is so important when it comes to your goals and your dreams. You don't want to get other people's opinions about what you have going on too much because, and I'll hit on this later, you know yourself more than anybody. So, but when it comes to privacy, it's just very important that as we grow and as we become real adults, because like I said, I'm telling this from a 24-year-old perspective. We think that we have to tell everybody everything because we've done it our whole lives. In school, we would tell all our friends everything. With our parents would tell our whole family everything that we have going on. So when you become an adult and you do those same like habits, you think that it's okay, but then you soon realize this is not okay. Like, this is actually really toxic, and it leaves you nothing to have to yourself. And it's just not a good feeling to be that way and to have that type of relationship with yourself and your goals and, your personal problems that you have going on. So you just want to do better of like keeping your mouth closed, keeping things to yourself, not giving people so much access to you. That's the number one thing. We have too much access to each other because of our phones, because of social media, the location thing. I think that it's all an invasion of privacy. Like, I don't post when I go somewhere. I don't post that I'm there until afterwards. That's if I even post. I don't even post when I go anywhere. Like, I'm not even that type of person anymore. Like, if I go out to eat, I'm not posting my food. When I go on trips, I literally went to New York this year and I did not post any pictures of me being in New York. I posted on my story like the little like train, but that was it. Like, I didn't even post the location. I know everyone has different takes on that, but as you grow and as you become very, more wise, and as you just become better in life, you want to just keep things sacred to yourself, and you want to enjoy things more. You don't want to do things for the validation of others. So please practice privacy. Find ways in your life to be more private and, not disclose every little thing that goes on in your life. Limit people's access to you. Don't allow everyone to have your location. Don't allow everyone to just call you and text you whenever you feel like it, whenever they feel like it. Let them know, like, hey, like, I'm busy today. I'll hit you back another day. And you may not even be busy. You just need some time to just like debrief and just like relax. And that's okay. We have to stop thinking that just because somebody texts our phone, we have to respond to them right there in that exact moment. But that's kind of a whole nother thing. But I feel like this all has to do with like just knowing that privacy is power and that you have the right to live a private life. Number 3, I talked about this in a previous video. I learned, first of all, that I'm a people pleaser. I don't think I actually accepted that until this year. But I learned that people pleasing is a trauma response, it's a toxic trait, and it's just not healthy. And like I've said before, I know that I've realized that I'm a people pleaser because I'm always picking up the phone, people call me. I'm always kind of like biting my tongue with people because I don't want to hurt their feelings. I am one to say yes a lot. And like I said, a lot of these things I didn't notice until me and my partner moved together and he got to see me be myself in action, see my interactions with my family. And he's like, dang, you always on the phone. Dang, they always calling you. Dang, like you always saying yes to people. Like you need to learn how to have more boundaries and not answer the phone all the time. Like simple. He doesn't have anyone just blow up his phone, and he has a big family as well. He doesn't always answer the phone. He doesn't always say yes to people, and he doesn't always do what people want him to do. And I really admire that about him because he's so at peace and he's so like content with himself. And he's able to come home and just like relax and not worry about someone like blowing his phone up, needing some type of advice or needing some type of help with anything. And he saw that when he does do that, depending on who the person is in their life, it leaves him dry more than anything. And so he's learned how to have those boundaries when it comes to his family and friends, of just knowing like, I'm working on myself. I'm not going to be able to give so much to you, and that's okay. And he's not scared to voice that. And so for me, I'm learning how to stop saying yes to everything, and stop being so accessible to people and stop being a people pleaser. I've been paying a lot more attention to my actions, paying a lot more attention to how I respond to things, how I react to things, and what I allow into my life. Like if I allow people to bring their problems into my life. And it's very hard, and it's hard to accept, that I was a people pleaser. And it's surprising for me because I am a very like disciplined person. And when I was in college, I was not that much of a people pleaser. Like I wasn't really talking to my family like that. But now since I've been out of college, I've seen it, be magnified. And I see myself being, someone who wants to make people around them happy. And it's just not okay when you are pouring from an empty cup. So that's one thing that I learned this year, and I'm very excited for this upcoming year to just be more in my no season, being more in my decline season, my do not disturb season, my vocal season, where I just let people know like, hey, today is not a good day. I'll have to get back to you tomorrow or another day. And just being confident and okay with saying that without feeling like I'm letting the other person down or hurting the other person. So yes, I learned this year that I am a people pleaser. I learned that in therapy as well. I did start therapy this year. And I learned that it kind of started with me as a child, and that's a whole nother story of how that came about. And I'm just happy to know that I'm aware of it and that I am once again actively working to change those behaviors and become a healthier person to where I'm not, pouring from an empty cup. So the fourth thing that I learned this year is that real confidence is internal and not external. So one of the things that I learned in therapy is that I do seek validation from my family, and I'll allow like my accolades to define who I am, which is very vulnerable for me to say on camera. But this is life and we are young, and this is the time where we're supposed to be learning these things so that it will help our relationships with other people and with ourselves as we grow and, build families and, we're in our careers. But yeah, so I learned that about myself. And so when I first started my journey of like building my confidence back, because my therapist said that I didn't have a lot of self-confidence, and I think he said there was a difference between self-confidence and self-worth. I can't remember, but I know he said that I lacked self-confidence and that I allowed the accolades to define me. And that's very true. I've always been a 4.0 student. I've always made the dean's list, always, did all the things that my family expected of me, and I always exceeded at those things, and I let those things define the fact that I'm a good person, I'm a good worker, I got good work ethic, like all those things. And so when I first started my journey of like building my self-confidence, I focused a lot on the external things like, do I look good? How do I feel? And like all these things, the cute things that we think confidence is. How am I speaking? But what I learned is that confidence is not about the external validation. It's about who you are on the inside and how God sees you and how you see yourself. So what I did was I started to focus on my relationship with God, and what I learned is that real confidence comes from knowing that God loves me and that He wants the best for me and that He sees me as worthy, not what the world sees. So what I did was like differentiate between like what the world sees and what God sees, and like what the world wants and what God wants for me. And I really focus on the internal validation that I get from God and not from the world. And what I learned is that it comes from action, and it comes from just believing that no matter what you have, no matter what you do for work, no matter who says what, you are powerful, you are worthy, you are great, you are beautiful, you are strong. It doesn't matter what you do or don't have, you are still worthy of any and everything. And that's a lot easier said than done to really believe that, because for me, I go through moments where I'm like, if I'm not in school, I'm not doing well. If I'm not working at a specific job, or if I don't have a certain amount of clients or this and that, I'm not doing well. And it starts to dwindle down my confidence. And basically, you just equate your confidence with the things that you have and the things that that you have going on in life. So what I learned was to not equate my confidence to that and focus on who I am as a person and who God made me to be. And it has made a huge difference in my life. And it's only been a few months, so I can just imagine how this will continue to help me to grow in the future, with who I am and what I do. And yeah, I just think it's important that we just really focus on who we are internally and not who the world says that we are, or who the world has kind of shaped and molded us to be and programmed us to think that we are. It's very interesting when you really start to differentiate between being godly and being worldly. And so that's a whole nother thing that I could get into. But it's helped me to change and helped me to be my best self, even without all the extra things that I thought made me who I am. So that is the fourth thing that I learned, and I think that is a valuable lesson to know as a 24-year-old. So the fifth thing that I've learned as a 24-year-old is that you know yourself more than anyone. So I used to always call people whenever I wanted to make a decision to get other people's opinions. And I've always kind of like regretted it after I did it, because obviously they're not telling me things that I want to hear. And just the fact that I know myself. I know what I want. I know what God wants for me, and I know what's for me. And so I've made some really big decisions this year that I didn't consult anybody on. And so my goal this year was to do that, like was to make decisions without asking other people. And when I say that it made a huge difference in my confidence and just the ability to know that I can make great decisions, I can make wise decisions, and I know who I am and what I want. A lot of times we let other people's ideas and philosophies come onto us and kind of change how we see things, which can be good in certain times, but when it comes to big life altering decisions, you know yourself more than anybody. You know what you want, what you don't want, and nobody else can take that away from you. So I have really, paid attention to even like the small decisions that I make and just making those decisions without calling a soul and just telling people afterwards, like, yep, this is what I did. And if they ask why, I may give them a little why, but I'm not really going into deep detail because I don't need that validation anymore. I've already done it. I don't need you to tell me if it was right or wrong. It's done with. And so there are times where you do need to seek wisdom. And so throughout this time, I definitely prayed a lot, journaled a lot, talked to one, maybe two wise people, if that, there's always ways to become wiser and just to get more knowledge before making decisions. You want to make informed decisions, but there's a balance between reality and your dreams. And so a lot of times you have to make decisions that are not realistic, and a lot of people are not going to agree with you, and that's okay. So when it comes to certain decisions, there's times where you need to seek information, you need that wisdom and that guidance, but there are some times where you just have that gut feeling and you just need to do it, whether it's big or small. So yes, you know yourself more than anyone, and it's important that you know that, and you know that you can make wise and great decisions. And the last thing that I learned this year as a 24-year-old, and my clients as a personal trainer are the ones who really helped me to see this, that health is not just about going to the gym and your nutrition. Of course, we know that on the surface, but I got a really deep understanding of that with my clients. So for me, like, going to the gym is literally like second nature. Like, I don't even have to think about if I'm going to go to the gym or not. I just do it because I love to do it, and it's just a part of my routine now. Nutrition, same thing. Like, I know to get my protein in. I know to eat healthier. Of course, I have times where I don't eat as healthy, but those are things that are more like natural to me. I don't have to really think about. But there's the mental health side, there's the spiritual side. These are all things that really have a huge impact on your overall health. And I learned that it takes a lot of mental strength to do things for certain people. There's this idea about motivation that comes into play when it comes to, eating healthy and working out. There's just a lot of things that encompass health. And I think the biggest thing I learned is that you have to practice discipline and consistency. But in order to even get to that point, you have to get to the root as to why you can't be disciplined. Do you lack self-worth, self-confidence? What are the mental barriers? What are the physical barriers that's keeping you from doing whatever it is you want to do when it comes to your fitness and health goals? And so, because with my clients, I've really been able to see that, it's helped me on my own personal journey. So I've been able to have a different approach when it comes to my clients, especially when I get new clients, when it comes to helping them to get into a routine and change their lifestyle and change their habits. So health is not just about what you eat and, how many workouts you do a week. There's definitely a deeper meaning behind it. Like, what are you listening to on a daily basis? What are you watching on a daily basis? What are you giving your energy to on a daily basis? These are all things that have to do with your health. Do you have boundaries? Do you have self-respect? What are your relationships like? What is your finances like? These are all things that play a huge role into your overall health. And this past year, I've been able to focus on different things at different times and seeing how they've all helped me to become a more well-rounded, healthy person. So, I've been focused on my finances. I've been focused on, learning how to not take on so much with work, learning how to make my money work for me, learning how to, communicate, focus on my relationships with my family and with myself and with my partner. So all these things have helped me to just become a smarter, a more caring, a more self-aware person, to where I'm just healthier overall. So know that health is not just about, gym and food and going to the doctor to get your checkups. There are so many other ways that you can focus on your health at different seasons in your life. And so I'm happy that I learned that now, because I know that moving forward, there are other ways that I can focus on becoming a more holistically healthy person. I hope you guys got something from this video. Like I said, I'm 24 years old and I'm all about growth and self-development and just becoming that highest, healthiest version of myself. I'm a very ambitious person as a 24-year-old. I love to grow and learn and just like put myself in situations where I'm becoming better. I don't like to stay stagnant. I love to grow, and you can kind of see that with my channel. So if you want to see that type of content, if you want to put yourself around that type of person, subscribe to my channel, comment on this video some things that you have learned as a 24-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, however old you are. Please let me know some things that you have learned in this past year. I will see you guys in the next video.